Hi everyone, and welcome back to my channel, Stitches Past 5. My name is Vera, and here I like to talk about anything that's going on in my knitting world and a little bit also sometimes in my crocheting world. But today I thought we would focus on knitting, and in particular I'm gonna do a book review of the book Knit This by Kutovakika, or Veronica Lindberg, known as Kutovakika, here on YouTube and also on other social medias. So I have the ebook version of this book, so I'll be showing you right here on my iPad. Hopefully you can get an insight of whether this book is something for you. I'm gonna be really honest, I'm gonna give some pros, I'm gonna give some cons of the book. I am gonna share, I have made a bunch of the patterns on this book, so I am gonna show you kind of the way my item looks like compared to the ones in the book. And I'll just kind of give an overview of how the book is structured, the patterns that are in it. Of course, I'm not going to give anything away, so you'll still need to buy the book to be able to knit the patterns. But without further ado, let's get started. The book Knit This by Veronica Lindberg, I believe came out last year, so in 2023. It is all knitting patterns that she designed herself. She does have a channel here on YouTube, and she kind of like talks through a lot of the process of pattern designing and working on patterns and so on and so forth. And I've been following her for a long time, and when she was writing a book, I thought, of course I have to buy it because I really want to support her. So that's exactly what I did. I chose to get the ebook version of it, but it does also come in a hardcover, or in a physical copy. I guess it's a hardcover. I paid around 20 euros for this, and I know that the hardcover or the physical copy of it is a little bit more. I think it's gonna go up to around 30 euros depending on where you buy it. So let's start by flipping the book open a little bit. I really love all the pictures she puts in of the patterns that are included. Just a quick preface, and then it dives right into the contents of the book. So part of this book are 21 patterns, and in particular there are 10 sweater patterns, 2 cardigan patterns, 4 hat patterns, 1 scarf, 2 mitten patterns, and 2 sock patterns. So quite a few accessories, but also some sweaters, as well as 2 cardigans. One of those sweaters is a male sweater, and everything else is for females. I guess bar the socks, mittens, and beanies, but that goes without saying. After, or I should say before the patterns, she includes a lot of instructional pages, so there is around 15 to 20 pages about explaining things. It is a very like aesthetically pleasing book, so the chapters are written really nicely. There is just like the language is really friendly, and those are kind of how the first few pages are structured. She describes, of course, all the terminology. She is a Finnish designer, so, you know, I think she acknowledges that the main audience, I would dare to say, is in North America, and yeah, some terminology might be a little bit different. And yes, she essentially goes over specific methods that you kind of need throughout the book. Anything that comes up in like multiple patterns, she'll put in the beginning, and then other descriptions are put into the pattern that you need to make specific things. Then the instructional pages end up with the abbreviations, your cast on, place marker, etc., etc. And then it goes straight into the pattern. So that is Chapter 2 is patterns. Okay, I'm gonna go through each of the patterns that she includes. I'll show you the pictures and kind of talk quickly through the sizing and the gauge that are used per pattern. So the first pattern is the Room to Bloom sweater, and it's this gorgeous drop shoulder sweater with this like flowers embroidered on it. I myself have not made this sweater, but it does come in sizes XS up until 2XL with a gauge of 20 stitches by 26 rows. So I guess it's a DK weight yarn that she uses. And then I believe that the flower embroidery is added after the sweater is knit. She includes these beautiful pictures of her wearing the garments, and you can just tell that so much, you know, effort and love has gone into that, and I think that's just really beautiful. The second pattern of the book is called the Honey Cardigan, and it is essentially this constructed cardigan in a fisherman's rib stitch. This is actually the next project that I'll be casting on, so I haven't made it yet, but I will make it probably starting tonight. The Honey Cardigan is, yeah, I think what Kutovakika does really well is her color choices. So this is in this beautiful yellow, and yeah, I think that's where it gets its name from as well, the Honey Cardigan. This one also comes in sizes XS to 2XL with a gauge of 14 stitches by 15 rows and half fisherman's rib stitch. Yeah, and it's also always really nice that she includes these diagrams just to give clarification of how the sizes are measured. There's always a recommendation of positive ease, of needle size, of yarn, as you would expect for any pattern, but that really is complete in this book. The next pattern of this book is the Quiet Delight Beanie, and it is essentially this really fluffy beanie. I believe it's knit, yeah, it's knit in a silk mohair, held together with a merino yarn, so it's like just looks really scrunchy and really soft. This is a hat or a beanie, so it comes in sizes S or M with a gauge of 13 stitches by 20 rounds in brioche stitch. Even this picture, just like look at her color choice, look at the background choice, it's just so pleasing to look at, and it's just something so nice about that in a good book when the pictures are just nice and crisp. The next sweater is a little bit of a more intricate one, and this is the Ivy sweater, and it is essentially this beautiful lace sweater that of course she includes all the charts for as well, but it is in sizes XS, S, ML, so it's like double sizing, but it does go up to 3XL to 4XL, so the sizing here are a little bit different where two sizes are grouped together. And the gauge for this one is 17 stitches by 25 rounds, and there is a whole long like explanation of how the lacing works and so on and so forth. Okay, the next pattern in this book is this fun sock pattern. These are the Dip the Tip socks, and they're essentially these really fun ribbed socks with this detailing of the toe and the heel in different color, or in a different colors held together. So I have made this sock. I've only made one of them because I stopped after the first one. And yeah, following the pattern was super easy. I mean, I do know like a little bit about sock knitting, I would say, so it wasn't anything too special like from my experience. It is a flap and gusset heel, and essentially it's worked by holding two strands of sock yarn together, and then you hold like, I mean, I held two browns together here, and then brown and like a beige together for the accents here. I personally don't really love how my sock turned out, but I do not blame that on the pattern at all. I blame that on my color choice, so I'm not really the biggest fan. But for now, I just have one Dip the Tip sock. Now, the socks here come in one size, which is European size 37 to 39. But of course, with most socks, you can adjust the foot length. There's nothing really too interesting, I mean, that doesn't sound positive, but like too special about these socks. It's pretty basic. Ribbing at the top, just flat at the bottom, 3x1 ribbing, I believe it is. And yeah, I guess this is my Dip the Tip socks pattern. Okay, next we have another sweater pattern, and this is called the Stay Up Till Dawn sweater. And I believe this is your basic raglan sweater. It is knit in a thicker gauge, so it is a gauge of 11 stitches by 18 rounds, and it's knit on 8mm needles. So it is a bit of a chunky sweater, and it comes in sizes XS to 2XL. Knit in Drops Wish. So I usually like have heard of yarn that patterns use, but then I'm like, I have no way of getting that, or it's way too expensive, so I usually substitute anyways. But this is one where I'm like, oh, I could actually use the yarn that they use. I'm not sure if I've ever even done that before. Next, we have a sweater, and this is probably, I have to say, my least favorite pattern of this book. I don't know. It is called the Bubblegum Sweater. So it is another sweater, and essentially like, it's all like the bubbles are attached to it. I hope you can see that here. And yeah, this is another top-down raglan sweater, I believe, where the gauge is the same as the other one, so 11 stitches by 18 rounds on 8mm needles. Sizes XS to 2XL again, and then you kind of like add or the bubbles as you go along. So it's actually all charted how you add the bubbles. I guess it's bubbles because it's a bubblegum stitch sweater. But yeah, I don't know. This is just not my favorite, not really my style. Doesn't mean it's not nice for other people. Just personally, I'm not the biggest lover of this one, but I think that's okay. Of course, there's gonna be a favorite and probably a least favorite of most books that I'll get. The next pattern is the Hello There Mohair beanie, and it is essentially this double folded brim mohair beanie. So this beanie is one size, and the gauge is 10 stitches by 22 rounds in brioche stitch. I have a love-hate relationship with brioche stitch, so I've not made this sweater. Yeah, I've had to unravel too many things that I've made with brioche stitch, but I think, yeah, this is a really pretty beanie. Maybe I'll make it soon, who knows. And yeah, it just seems like a really, you know, good pattern. Okay, next we have one of the two cardigans. So this one is the Lazy Cat cardigan, right here, knitted in this gray color. This one is knitted in half fisherman's rib stitch, and the gauge for that is 10 stitches by 10 rows in that stitch, and the sizing ranges from XS to 3XL. This one is also knit in Drops Air, and yeah, it's just, I think it's just like your basic chunky cardigan, which is always nice to see because I think that's a staple to have in most closets. Okay, the next pattern was actually my very first pattern that I knit from this book, and it is these mittens. So these are called the Fly Mittens. And they're these really fun sprinkled color exploding mittens. It is one size for them, and the gauge is 26 stitches by 20 rounds in color work. So I'll show you mine. I deviated a little bit from the colors in the patterns. I made mine a little bit more pink. And these I love so, so much. I wear these every single day in the winter. I did need to adjust the pattern a little bit just because, yeah, it was not big enough for my hands. These do come just in one size, so I think that's a bit of a critique that I have, that like maybe a second size would have been nice, because I ended up making like at least, probably if you count all the parts together, 3, 4. No, I know I made 3 of these because I have a third one just in the making for someone else. But I made like 4 of these already, just trying to figure out the gauge, figuring out needle size, etc. But I would do it all over again because look how fun these are. They're gorgeous. Oh my goodness. Whoever thought about doing 3 color work and doing like 2 on top of, oh, I think these might be my favorite thing and my first thing that I made from this book. I'm not sure. They're super creative. The little like love heart looking stitches at the top as well. Fly Mittens, you did not disappoint. Once I got it figured out, the gauge and the whole how to do color work with 3 at the same time, like switching every stitch. That was a bit of a barrier at first, but I'm really glad that I figured it out. Here's another picture of her wearing the mittens, so hers are a little bit more orangey toned, where mine are a little bit more pink. I was really inspired by this color combination that she used. I would never think to use light pink, dark pink, and brown as a combination, so I was really happy that she gave me that idea. And yeah, I'm just in love with my mittens. So the next pattern is another sweater pattern, and this one is called the Secret Crush Sweater. So it is again this beautiful lace sweater pattern, just like this. I've not made this one. I'm also not sure if this is fully my style personally. So I'm not sure I will make it, but I just, you know, I like looking at it on other people. I'm just not sure that's really my personal style, but that's okay. This one comes in sizes XS to 2XL, 3XL grouped as one size. A gauge of 9 stitches by 12 rounds and brioche stitch on 7mm needles. Yeah, and it's essentially this like top-down yoke sweater. All the charts are given and so on and so forth. I like the way it looks on others, like I said, but I'm not sure if I'll make this sweater personally. The next pattern is the second sock pattern of the book, and it is the Smartheart Socks pattern. First of all, how adorable is this cat? And second of all, the socks as well. They're so cute. These socks are your basic ribbed socks. They come in one size, again, European 37 to 39. The gauge is 24 by 38 rounds, 24 stitches by 38 rounds on 2.25mm needles and 2x2 rib stitch. I did make this sock, so it looks like this. It looks a bit awkward when it's not like, I haven't blocked this one and I've also only made one. And I obviously didn't make the heart either, but I guess you'd have to imagine it a little bit like this, where the 2x2 ribbing is, you know, all the way on the cuff and on the top, and then the bottom is just stockinette stitch. Yeah, the pattern again was pretty easy to follow, nothing too special here. It is a ribbed sock, cuff to toe construction with a flap and gusset heel again, and the only thing where I was a little bit apprehensive was that I got asked to cast on 56 stitches, and just with the yarn I was using, which also didn't meet gauge perfectly, like I knew that was gonna be too small. So I did a little bit of yarn maths, gauge maths, and then I got it right. So this one is actually 64 stitches because I used a thinner yarn. What more is there to say? I've only made one because I also didn't love it when I first made it. It just looks so awkward. It looks fine wearing it, by the way. But again, I think that was my yarn choice that just, yeah, maybe I could have chosen different yarn and then I would be happier with my Smartheart Socks. Maybe I'll just remake them in the yarn that she tells me to make and actually follow the gauge and the stitch recommendations. Okay, but those are the Smartheart Socks, and then what she does is she embroiders a little love heart on them. So you can see it right here on the folded cuff. She embroiders a love heart, which I think is such a cute touch and just really, you know, is the centerpiece of the sock. Okay, the next pattern I have also made, and it is the Lighthouse Beanie. This one is an interesting construction. I'll show you mine. So hers she made in this beautiful orange color. Mine I made in this pink right here, and it is essentially constructed as a tube that then folds into itself as such. And then you fold up the rim and then you have your beanie that's super fluffy, that's like quadruple layered out here, double layered here. So it's, she also describes it as a super warm beanie, and I can definitely attest to that. This one is really nice and warm. It does come in one size only, and the gauge is 18 stitches by 29 rounds. Okay, so I knit this on Drops Air, and this one I'm a little bit disappointed with. I don't know. It just doesn't look like, I'm not sure. I think this is not exactly my beanie style. I'm not sure if it's my like yarn choice, or if it's that I made it a little bit too short, or that I used, yeah, I don't know, just something I don't love about it. I have worn it a few times just because I wanted to give it a chance. But I'm not sure if I'll keep it. I don't know if I'll frog it. I'm not sure if this is my favorite beanie construction. It is just so much around your ears, and yes, it gets cold and that will be nice, right? But I'm kind of more of a person, I'll have a beanie on and then I'll put my hood on top of the beanie, so I don't actually need this much like substance. I've gotten a lot of questions about it though, because I've shown it in other videos. So I think people are interested in it and people are curious, like how it's constructed. It is super warm, and I think the pattern has exactly that in mind, that it's meant to be like a really warm beanie. Even just holding it like this, like my hands are getting warm in here. The next sweater is another gorgeous one, and it is the Maybe Forever sweater. And oh, look at these ballooning sleeves, they look amazing. And I would love to make this sweater soon, who knows, maybe I will. This one comes in sizes, again the sizes here are grouped, so XS, and then 3XL, 4XL is the largest one, ML, and then XL, 2XL are the other two grouped sizes. This one is at a gauge of 11 stitches by 18 rounds in brioche stitch on 5mm needles. What more is there to say about a simple brioche stitch, I believe top down raglan sweater? It just looks so fluffy and you just kind of like want to touch it when you see it. So hopefully maybe I'll make this pattern soon. So the next pattern is a true eye catcher. If you follow Kutovakika, she like really documented the making of the sweater, and I was just so impressed by her making it. And then I found out that the pattern was going to be in this book. I was super excited. Now I haven't made the sweater because in all honesty it is a little bit intimidating and it does seem like it's gonna take forever and a half. So it's called the Dirty Caramel Sweater, and it's this beautiful, beautiful, oh, color work in such, like, who thinks of this color combination, honestly? Like dark blue, pink, brown, white, or ochre or whatever, like beige. And it's just such a showstopper. Like this is, I think this is the, like the eye catcher of the book. And I think the sweater alone would be worth buying the book for. I really want to make it. There is just like a little bit overwhelming still because there's so many like colors going on. I'll try to find another picture of it. Like there's so many colors going on and just so many decisions that you'll have to make before making it. So yeah, I would love to cast it on. I really would. And maybe this is my sign to cast it on soon. But let's not get distracted. The sizes are XS to 2XL and the gauge is 20 stitches by 21 rounds in color work, and it's worked on 5mm needles. Oh, I love everything about the sweater. The ballooning sleeves and just, yeah. I think this is one of the sweaters that like you would be, or I would be motivated to get like good yarn for, expensive yarn, something that I would love wearing and wear a lot. As you can tell, I'm in love with this sweater. I'm intimidated by it. Maybe one day. The next pattern of the book is the Brios Station scarf. So it is this two-colored reversible brioche scarf. Yeah, I think it's just a brioche stitch made into a scarf, which is beautiful. And I think it's also taking something as simple as like just a long rectangular scarf and really letting the, here I'll zoom in a little bit, and really letting the brioche stitch effect of using the two colors speak for itself. I think that's super clever. And I think this would also be a really good start to learn brioche stitch. So it has a width of 32 centimeters, which is 12.75 inches, and a length of 180 centimeters, which is 70.75 inches. But of course, the length especially is very adjustable according to your needs. The gauge is 13 stitches by 17 rows in two-color brioche stitch on 4.5mm needles before blocking. Okay, then the next pattern is this one. And this one is the male sweater that I mentioned at the beginning. This one is called the Yuki Sweater. And it is, again, this beautiful color work with these cool, like, zigzag detailing at the top. And I've actually made this sweater right here. I made this for my partner, so it's a lot bigger than what I would make for myself. I have to go back a little bit to show you. Yeah, this was kind of like my first experience with like color work to this extent at least. I mean, I've done color work before, but like in much smaller projects. This one is knitted bottom up. And then as you work the yoke, you work the colors into it. What I'm really happy with that we did is we used the yellow, because in the pattern, she actually uses a much darker brown, and ours just kind of like, it pops a lot more, which is really cool. Another adjustment that I made was I made a snowflake instead of the skulls. My partner was not the biggest fan of the skulls, so I substituted it with this snowflake, or at least from afar it kind of looks a little bit more like a snowflake. So that's a little adjustment that we made, just because, yeah, wasn't the biggest fan of the skulls, but of course that's just a personal preference. This has been worn a lot, and this is definitely a favorite. So the Yuki Sweater, definitely recommend. The sizing is from an XS to a 4XL, and the gauge is 16 stitches by 24 rounds. The next pattern is one that I'm actually currently working on that's almost off the needles, but not quite yet, and it is the cloud sweater. So it's this one right here. This one is a bottom up drop shoulder construction, and it comes in sizes XS to 2XL, and it's this really like oversized sweater. As you can see, it's really close to being done. Here are the needles. I'm playing a very intense game of Yarn Chicken right now, because this is literally all I have left to complete the ribbing. I have like the gauge swatch, which I will need to undo. I already know that. I've already done undone a few other gauge swatches, because that wouldn't even have gotten me this far. But that's not the point at the moment. This is my cloud sweater. This is knit in a double mohair yarn. So it is a very light sweater. And yeah, the drop down shoulder just gives it like this oversized feel. This is my first time like working in pure double strand mohair. So that it's just a little bit of a different knitting experience. The pattern is very easy to follow, super nice. I did make a size adjustment because the oversizedness was just a little bit too much for me. I'm making a size S, and that's still plenty oversized. I also shortened the body a lot, just because in her pattern, you might be able to see from this image right here. Maybe this is a better idea of like how oversized the sweater is. I'm super excited. I'm gonna finish it today, and yeah, hopefully then steam block it and be really careful with it, because it does seem just a little bit frail with the 2 strands of mohair. But yeah, that's the cloud sweater. Okay, we're nearing the end of the patterns. The next one is the second mitten pattern. This one is called the Lollipop Mittens. So it's these 2 colored mittens, and they're they come in 2 sizes, so S and M, where the other mittens only came in 1 size, so I guess that's nice. So I did make these mittens, and here they are. Mine are not so lollipop. I mean, I made them for my brother, and I just knew that he would want a little bit less color. For myself, I would have gone for the color, but for him, I made them in Drops Air in brown. And yeah, it was a really easy pattern to follow, nothing to say there. I made size M for him. The gauge is 21 stitches by 29 rounds on 4mm needles, and that's more or less exactly what I did right here. It comes with this folded cuff right here at the bottom. Then we have another beanie, which is the Polar Paws beanie. So it's essentially this beanie with this cable stitch going up it. This one is also 1 size, and the gauge is 11 stitches by 18 rounds on 6mm needles. And yeah, it's a really cool beanie. I've never really made one with cable, so maybe that'll be a good challenge. I think what I really appreciate, like for example in this picture, look, like she's wearing the beanie with the sweater, with the bubblegum sweater, right? So it's like really showing that you can combine the objects of this book. I think that's really fun, that's really cool. The last pattern of this book is another sweater, and it is called the Stripy Affair sweater. It is this 3-stripe, different color sleeve sweater, and has this beautiful like V-neck going on. It is also like a little bit oversized, and yeah, it comes in sizes XS through 2XL. and a gauge of 18 stitches by 25 rows. I have the yarn for the sweater. I'm not sure if I'll make this sweater out of the yarn that I have technically for it, and that would just for me mean it's one color, so I might want to do the stripes. I'm not sure yet, but yeah, I think the stripes are really creative. I like that. You don't see like this pattern or this stripe pattern in sweaters a lot, so I think that's really interesting. And maybe also just like inspiration for other things that I'll make, because I always see a knitting book as not that you need to make every pattern, but more it can inspire other patterns you make as well. Okay, so that is the end of the knitting book. All in all, that was 192 pages, so it is a pretty hefty book. Flipping through it, it just gets me really excited about knitting, and that's what I love about it. I'm gonna share some pros and cons now. Of course, the cons I don't want you to take as any sort of like negativity or insult or in any way. It's just kind of my experience with the book. I do want to be honest, so I do want to share some of the things I like less about it. But before we do that, my pros of this book is I think it's a really wearable book. I think there's so many patterns. There's 21 patterns, and of course other knitting books have way more patterns. But of these 21 patterns, I probably really want to make like 17 or 18 of them, and I think that's really, really good. So technically, by spending 20 euros on this ebook, I'm getting like 17 patterns. So if you look at the price to pattern I'll actually want to knit ratio, that's really, really good. I don't know, she's European, I'm also European, so maybe it's more that style. I don't know what it is, but our styles just kind of are pretty similar, and I like seeing that, and therefore, I mean, you can look at the patterns before you buy the book, of course, so I knew it was a pretty knittable book for me. Another thing I like is that it has challenges, so whether that be color work, whether that be cables, whether that be like different charts you need to follow, I think it's always nice to be challenged by a pattern, and I definitely get that with this book, so that's another thing I've enjoyed making some of the pieces. Then the next thing that I really like about it is that she really takes the time and space to do the step-by-step picture instructions. So I mentioned at the beginning, she has the general instructions, and then throughout the book for like different patterns, she has like all the step-by-step picture instructions. So this one is, for example, how to make like the button surrounding using a crochet hook. And it just shows that like she thinks about every single step, and that she also wants the patterns to be approachable and also like doable. I think I've seen enough patterns where it's just like, okay, now do this, and then you have to watch 10 videos to try to figure out how, which is fine because I'll get there in the end, but I would rather like have it in pictures in front of me and just not need to go to 10 other resources to figure it out. The last thing that I love about this book is that you can tell that it was made with love. I think I like spending my money on things that I know other people did with a lot of hard work. I know that she has test knitters. I mean, you can see it all on YouTube here, like how much work she's put into this book and how excited she was about it. So I think it's just nice to see. The pictures are so well thought through, the colors of the pictures. I think she does have like a photography background, and that really shows, and it's just so pleasing flipping through the pages, and yeah, nothing can be said against that ever, I think. Then about my cons, or my things that I liked a little bit less about this book, is first of all the gauge and sizing. I think a lot of her items are pretty oversized. I think for me, I'm not the biggest oversized person. I mean, of course, a sweater is not going to be like with negative ease, but I don't really need 30 centimeters of positive ease. And I think then sizing and figuring out measurements does get a little bit more tricky. So I have had a few instances where I've just not really been sure which size to go with, just because of the huge positive ease requirement. Maybe that's more my personal style though, but if you're someone who doesn't love like almost, I don't know, a foot of positive ease, then yeah, just be ready to do some gauge calculations. I do that mostly anyways, just to double check, but for this one, I've done it for almost every single thing that I've knit through it. And I mean, once you know how to do the calculations, it's fine and you kind of figure it out, but that can be a little bit of a, yeah, apprehension at the beginning when you're trying to figure out like how her sizing works. Speaking of sizing, I think a lot of the time her patterns go to 2XL, 3XL, which is good for size inclusivity, especially considering that the items are usually pretty oversized and pretty baggy. What I think I don't love is two sizes being grouped together. So a lot of the time, I mean, I just shared all the patterns, but the sizes are like S to M and L to XL. Like often between an S and an M, there's a huge difference. And I could be like on the small size of the MS or on this large size of the M, and then like what do I do? So I think I'm never the biggest fan of when sizes are grouped together. It just, yeah, it's a little bit generalized, I feel sometimes, but that's just a small nuance there. Then, yeah, the socks are only one size, and I think I would love to see at least like 2 cuff sizes, just because I started reading both of the sock patterns and I immediately thought, I don't think that's gonna fit. Now, okay, fine, I have like bigger feet, I guess, but I don't have huge feet, and I know there's lots of people out there with bigger feet than me, or wider ankles and all that, and I think for that it's a little bit constrictive. So I would have liked to see at least another cuff size for the socks. Of course, socks length you can always adjust, but the cuff size or the width of that I think would be nice to have another size in there. Same for the mittens, for the Sprinklify mittens. It would have been nice to have like another size. I mean, these are definitely female ones, so it'd be really nice to have like a male size, like an L, or if this is S, then an M. So yeah, there is a little critique that I have, I guess. And then the last one is that there's not really any difficulty indications. So a lot of knitting books, I know they show like, is this easy? Is this super easy? Is this like beginner friendly? Do you need some experience? And there's not really any indication of that in here. Now, I would say that the patterns in this book kind of range from easy or level 1 intermediate to intermediate, or like easy, beginner, intermediate, something in that spectrum. So it would have been nice to have some sort of indication. Like if that gorgeous color work sweater told me it was like, you know, intermediate, easy intermediate, then I would have already probably started it. So just some indication would be nice here. And that's already all my cons that I have against this book. I think it's a lovely book. I think I love, you know, buying something that I've seen someone, or kind of like followed someone make, and that has given me that exactly. So I would definitely recommend this book to knitters. It is 21 patterns, and if you're anything like me, then you'll want to knit a lot of them, and that's always really nice in a knitting book. Okay, so let me know if you have made anything from this book, if you're thinking about buying this book, and maybe what you look out for when you're browsing which knitting book to buy next. Alright, so I hope this video helped you a little bit. If it did, I love it for you to comment down below, or maybe even subscribe, like this video. And yeah, maybe I gave you a little bit more insight to help you make your decision of whether or not to buy this book. Okay, that's it for today. Thank you so much for watching, and as always, I hope to see you in the next one. Take care. Bye.